Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. It's been a while since I said that one, huh? Well, why not? Why not say it every now and then? Especially on videos like this, because that's exactly what we're about to do. The Democrats, the Democrat Party, the party fighting for democracy, just committed one of the most atrocious legal acts in modern American history. I mean, it's clear. Democrats want to play dirty. They want to play dirty while pretending to be squeaky clean. They're basically a bunch of thugs, a bunch of gangsters, acting like a group of innocent school children. Well, folks, it's not going to work. The illusion is up. The scam, the con job, is fully exposed. I laid out the context in the last video. The Democrats are cheering this as some sort of victory. Well, that was the initial sentiment. Now it seems as though the script has flipped entirely, as mainstream media journalists are in panic, claiming, quote, the resistance is about to get Donald Trump elected. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so take a look at this from Mediaite. We have an article from Isaac Score who writes, the resistance is going to make Donald Trump president again. You're incorrigible idiots. You're so sure that you were put on this earth to save the country from Donald Trump that you're willing to gamble it all to have the chance. And you're going to lose. The Colorado Supreme Court's decision to try to kick Trump off the ballot on Tuesday was decadent, spurious, irresponsible, inevitable, and a logical conclusion to the long-standing practices of the resistance, which for 6 years has been the former president's greatest asset. Trump couldn't just be a vain, self-serving charlatan willing to seize upon every advantage available to him. He had to be a Russian asset since the 1980s, and/or a blackmailed fetishist with a secret video ready to drop at any moment. You could never admit that despite the divisive, overheated rhetoric, Trump was smart to address the crisis at America's southern border. Instead, his successor quickly shelved the effective policy measures that were implemented, deepening the crisis. There was no time to investigate the role of the Chinese Communist Party related to the pandemic because Trump had uttered the words China virus. We can skip some of the meat here in this article and go towards the end. Mr. Score continues by writing, Trump is unfit for office, and his actions in the wake of his embarrassing loss to Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election are among the most disgraceful ever taken by a commander-in-chief. He should have been convicted for high crimes and constitutionally barred from returning to office by the Senate after the January 6th Capitol riot, and the Republicans who failed to do bear full responsibility for failing to do so. But their mistakes do not excuse this extra constitutional effort to prevent Americans from picking their next president for themselves. This overstep, perhaps the biggest yet, is imprudent and arrogant enough to not only reinforce conservatives' priors, but to push persuadable voters who are already leaning towards backing the former president over the incumbent into Trump's camp. A colorable case that he is being unjustly persecuted, combined with Biden's dismal performance in office, will in all likelihood be enough to return Trump to the White House. Folks, that's an article written by a mainstream journalist who absolutely despises Trump and believes that Trump should have been barred from office following January 6th. This is a mainstream TDS suffering journalist who is essentially now going on the record telling the world that Donald Trump will most likely be elected president again because of the horrifying authoritarian oversteps of the Democrat Party. And he is right. Something crazy is happening here. Even the most vehement anti-Trump people are coming out to defend the former president. If it's not Isaac Score, then it's John Bolton.
Ambassador Bolton, when you look at this measure that was put in place to keep former Confederates from returning to power, I mean, what do you make of it being used here?
I think it's completely misplaced. I think this Colorado Supreme Court decision is badly wrong for multiple reasons. Number one, the 14th Amendment provides that Congress can pass legislation to carry its provisions into effect, which Congress has done on many aspects. It has not put anything with respect to Section 3 on the books since just after the Civil War. Second, the idea that 50 different state courts can decide a question involving the highest elective office in the executive branch, interpreting the federal Constitution as to what constitutes an insurrection against the federal government is incoherent. And I think undoubtedly the Supreme Court's going to have to clear that up.
Even John Bolton is trashing the Colorado Supreme Court's decision, calling it incoherent. It's a weird thing to say, but John Bolton is absolutely right. And this segment from Newsmax, I think, really put it all into perspective.
They're giving the background on the facts here, and they dwell on January 6th a lot. Donald Trump spoke to the attendees in his speech, which began around noon, and here it gets all political. President Trump persisted in rejecting the election results, telling his supporters that we won in a landslide and we will never concede. These are quotes out of context, right? He urged his supporters to confront this egregious assault on our democracy, unquote. Quote, walk down to the Capitol and show strength, unquote. And if they did not, quote, fight like hell, they would not have a country anymore, unquote. Before his speech ended, portions of the crowd began moving toward the Capitol. Below, we discuss additional facts regarding the events of January 6th as relevant to the legal issues before us. It's fascinating. Their summary of that speech, they portray it in the darkest light possible, eliminating anything that's factual but exculpatory that would lend to his innocence, huh?
The decision tells you all that you need to know. The supposed evidence that proves Donald Trump is guilty of insurrection is literally a bunch of selectively edited, cherry-picked garbage, which completely omits the context. Supposedly, Trump told people to fight like hell and go to march to the Capitol, but they omitted the part where Trump said march peacefully, assemble peaceably, have your voices heard peacefully and patriotically. That is what President Trump said. This Colorado Supreme Court decision is a sham, and the American people will see it for what it is. If John Bolton and Isaac Score can see it, then your average middle-of-the-ground American is going to see the picture as clear as day. You know, when you're turning on MSNBC and you're hearing this kind of rhetoric,
we're all just trying to absorb this. Listen, I think in the broad strokes, in terms of our democracy, there are very few magic wands. there are very few sort of magic spells that you cast that make a complex and difficult problem go away. It just doesn't happen very often in our political system, and I think that we shouldn't be under any illusions about the character and the partisan inclinations, among other things, of this current Supreme Court as it is constituted.
To the Republican candidate's argument that the voters should have the say and not the courts.
Why are you standing with Confederates who betrayed this country? And this is what they're standing with, is the spirit of those Confederates rather than the Americans who came together after a long and brutal civil war that was fought.
it pretty much tells you all that you need to know. Donald Trump's a Confederate standing with Confederates. Rachel Maddow literally said, this is not a crazy thing for a democracy to do. Apparently, it's not crazy for a democracy to decide to cancel democracy and remove the political opposition from the ballot. Maybe in Volodymyr Zelensky's version of democracy, but in real democracy, I'd argue it's quite antithetical. And now things are getting real messy as these Democrat vultures swoop in to take advantage of the circumstance. Here's a tweet from Benny Johnson on Twitter. California Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis to the Secretary of State Shirley Weber says, "We will explore every legal option to remove former President Donald Trump from California's 2024 presidential primary ballot." They're now diving in full on, attempting to rig the system. What this probably is, and what's probably going on here, is that Democrats are probably following Joe Biden's marching orders. We all remember this infamous clip now, don't we?
We just have to demonstrate that he will not take power if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
It's a full-on mask moment for the Democrats. It's going to backfire spectacularly. There is no case here. There's no legitimate argument for removing Donald Trump, and there's obviously no legitimate argument for insurrection or Trump inciting violence when what he said is literally on tape.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Meanwhile, there's literally clips of Chuck Schumer saying stuff like this.
Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you.
Nobody is buying this crap. Nobody's buying what the Democrats are selling here. What they are doing is fundamentally wrong, unethical, and undemocratic, and even Trump's most vehement detractors can see that as clear as day. We're going to finish the video by simply rereading the first headline. The resistance is going to make Donald Trump president again. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.